Hello, and welcome to this special stream. This is going to be an interesting one. Basically, me and a good friend of mine are going to chat about suspension of disbelief. And allow me to bring in this special guest. Please welcome Lucky Jinx, everybody.
Perfect. Oh, hello everyone.
Hello. Welcome, everybody. Sorry, I seem to have unfortunately misspelled it to Lucy Jinx instead of Lucky Jinx.
That's fine.
I'll fix it in post.
Yeah, that's okay. I will be Lucy today.
Alrighty. So, how's things going?
A little hectic, but it should calm down in a bit, I guess.
So much love in the chat for you.
Oh, hi, Dr. Crow. Yeah. I need to get back to responding to people.
Totally. So, you said that you had a number. What are some of the talking points that you come up? Because this is kind of your show. I'm just kind of the dude hosting it.
Well, I just wanted to ask your opinion on suspension of disbelief and stuff like that. And I also wanted to ask you about your writing process and because I'm a little confused sometimes, because sometimes personal biases enter into when discussing this. Like back then, you had a lot of films that did these incredible things, and I guess it was okay back then. But I guess people are now hungry for more realistic aspects to films. So, what I just want to know your opinion, and as a disclaimer, I may piss people off with these questions, but I'm not trying to push an agenda. I'm just genuinely curious because if I ever get into making films, I want to do it right. I don't want to. I don't want it to be like Batwoman for one. And
honestly, the agenda is the least of the problems with Batwoman.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I mean, because you have a very skinny Ruby Rose fighting giant men.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So
just poor girl just does not look like she could knock over a fly. I'm sorry.
yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
But
So what are like some examples of suspension of disbelief then versus suspension of disbelief now? Just so I can have a little bit of context of what you're trying to think, what you would like to specifically focus on.
it's more like I guess in general, because this was made fun of too back then. With 80s movies where you had a bunch of stunts, over exaggerated stunts, which were cool because a lot of them were real, but at the same time, is kind of exaggerated. You have that kind of today, except it's CGI, so I guess it's not as cool. So I don't know. I'm just wondering, I'll get into it, the aspects and stuff like that of it all.
Oh, I like that. That's actually a good. That's actually
yeah.
good. That's actually a good statement. I like it.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But yeah, the intro is very interesting that you got for me because I was going to ask about Black Widow. Black Widow seems to be an exception as far as to human females with no superpowers fighting physically stronger and even superpowered heroes and villains because she's well trained, I guess. I personally don't understand how, especially when she doesn't really get her bones shattered when being thrown against a wall by one.
I think that one of the things that helps with suspension of disbelief with that one is the fact that Black Widow uses more of a luchador style of
Sure.
fighting. And one thing that I kind of that I actually found out was basically like that kind of shifted my perspective was like when a 90-pound girl like seems like she's really light. However, when she puts all 90 pounds into applying pressure onto something, like when she
Yeah.
just uses her whole weight to bring somebody down or
Yeah.
redirects force, that makes things a lot easier for me to believe. Um, when she takes somebody down, I think that's a big part of it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I don't know, like I've always thought that she seems kind of out of place in the
Mm.
Avengers, but yeah.
She's definitely on the lowest of the power set, aside from perhaps Hawkeye.
Yeah. Yeah. uh can well, I mean that clip just answered my next question too, but like I'm talking about like a female that's not very well trained. Like maybe can a woman go against a man without a gun?
Uh,
Like maybe like if she's like really fast, like very agile or something. Like
I
maybe
th-
if she can bring him down like with targeting weak points on his body, if you will, or something.
oh, I would say so. I think a big part of it is basically like if you go strength against strength, unless
Yeah.
she's like Gina Carano, it's it's gonna be more difficult. Like if she's more willowy, she would have to kind of more fight like in a way that uh, pulls her weight, brings like all of her minimal weight into what she's doing. Like if she's like got the legs around um, on the neck and pulls down, or she kind of block uses kind of the other person's force, deflects it, and then it's in the face. I think that
Oh
you could feasibly do some interesting things, or kind of focus around like um, grace fighting. Like one example would be fencing, where with fencing it's quick movements as opposed to powerful movements. If you use wide swings with fencing, you're going to lose. However, if you
yeah.
keep centered and just use like quick flicks of the wrist and then go in for the kill, that's going to be a lot more effective.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Which is kind of why like unless I'm specifically using a woman who's big, I'm mostly going to use non-strength related weaponry like rapiers, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to use bows unless it's a big woman or because unless it's a crossbow, because you don't need any strength to do a crossbow, you just need crank.
Oh yeah. That's true.
because because contrary to popular belief, bows have a pretty powerful draw weight.
Yeah, very
It really
eh,
hurts. Like a modern day compound bow really hurt is a big like shoulder workout. Like
yeah.
I speaking as somebody who owns one.
It's like, oh gosh, like have you seen the new Mulan at least with the
Oh,
EMF
oh,
oh my gosh. It is so bad.
yeah. It's I actually watched a friend of mine streamed it, and I got to watch it for free. So I was just like, ow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I I just ate and I felt the food just coming back up like after watching it. I couldn't deal with it. It was so bad.
Um, yeah, it was just like that battle at the end is so stupid.
It was horrible. Oh, but I mean like I don't think that movie could ever be. I was gonna ask this: what makes a movie so bad that it's good, as opposed to just bad? Except for Mulan, because I don't think that will ever be a movie like The Room, where we can have fun with it or anything like that. It's like more like a why did you do this, Disney kind of thing.
Mm,
Why was
that's a
this
good
made?
that's a good question. I think part of it is just like there needs to be a feeling of genuineness about something that's a nanar or a so bad it's good. Because something like The Asylum is hilarious because it's stupid, but the problem with that is that it's calculated stupid. They are deliberately making it this way because they know their market. Tommy Wiseau and the people who made Troll 2, as well as, say, A Kid in King Arthur's Court, think they're making a good movie, but they are failing so spectacularly and in such a way that is just interesting to watch that you can't help but laugh because you have to say, somebody thought this would be good and made it.
Like Batwoman.
Yeah. That's what makes Batwoman so relatively enjoyable, is because it is so asinine that somebody actually thought this would work. And partially it's the bad acting, but then again, no CW shows have good acting, so I can't fault them.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Uh, well, what do you think of surrealism?
Surrealism. I haven't had much experience, but I think surrealism definitely like what do you mean? Like by what do I think of surrealism? Like what are my opinions? I don't really have that many, but if you have any like more specific questions, I think I could answer them a little bit better.
Well, just your like overall opinion, like of how well it works in art overall, whether it be film or on canvas or uh, just
Hmm.
like
I think with surrealism, I tend to enjoy stuff that has surrealism versus something that is just surrealism, if that makes sense.
ah,
Um, I I like something like if something has kind of like at least a somewhat straightforward plot. I think one of my the films that I like that I guess you could call surrealism is Nightcrawler, but
okay.
it's more just that it is a quiet thriller where you're just kind of examining the actions of this particular person, and you don't like get a whole lot of context as opposed to some the works of, say, Jean Cocteau with his Beauty and the Beast story, as well as a few of the other things that he made. But that the only one of Jean Cocteau's that I'm relatively familiar with is um, his Beauty and the Beast film.
Yeah. Do you think there are limits to the ridiculous aspects of certain stories, or do you think that they are limitless, as long as the important elements that make a good story is kept in check?
I would say yes, because we have you can create certain elements of a story where you can kind of believe some of the ridiculous aspects. For instance, uh, Wheel of Time, for example, uses has an in-world mechanic for explaining the plot armor of its three main male protagonists, but
Yeah.
there's an in-world reason for why like arrows kind of miss them. However, it is more noticeable when people who are not the three mains kind of duck and avoid things by accident. So those tend to stand out. So you have to use them very carefully, or else you will not be able to hold the audience's attention.
Right. It'll just be like, what the fuck every 2 seconds or something, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to figure out like, okay, so in the world that I am creating, I need to create an interest in the audience or give the audience clear understanding. Because if the audience kind of like, if you reveal like a little bit early of what, say you are in a fantasy world and you want to use magic, what you want to do is give them a taste early and maybe kind of explain a little bit, and then like have some gradual reveals. It's kind of how Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan use magic. That's one example. Another might be, I can kind of believe Tony Stark is making these suits of armor that like are like highly technologically advanced, mostly because I see the progression. And to some extent, I can believe that Captain Marvel got her magic powers by shooting this goopy thing.
From goo.
But I
Yeah.
can believe. I just don't find that particular explanation for her powers relatively satisfying. I can believe it, but I don't find it that satisfying.
Yeah, it's a lot like Kamala Khan and like Miss Marvel just handing everything to her or something like that, or for no reason.
Yes. Or kind of in Shazam is actually a good example where it's just like, why is Billy Batson like getting the power? He kind of doesn't have that many good qualities that I can see, especially like when he walks away from the bullied kid. He just
He doesn't have
he
that like, hero quality or anything like that.
yeah, it
I
doesn't
guess.
seem. The only thing that brings him in is when the guy says, "You got no mommy." That's kind of the main thing. So, yeah, that's yeah, pretty much. Like, I think that like how like I think Captain Marvel's like. I just find it such a bland, uninteresting movie that doesn't really have that much substance. But and there's just like, oh, this is just like boring and unsatisfying. I don't think it's as bad as, I think like there's a lot of structural problems with it, but yeah, it's kind of just annoying. I mean,
Yeah.
little like dings in the paint, like kind of using the analogy of a car. Captain Marvel has lots of rents in the hood, but the hood and across the doors, but the tires still work, as opposed to TLJ and Game of Thrones season 8, which all three have flat tires, and the car is on fire.
Exactly. And somehow the car is screaming as well.
Yeah, like really loud.
uh, let's see.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Though usually like phoning it in acting is indicative of poor writing. I think
Yeah.
that's either I've very rarely seen like something that has good writing bad have that has good writing have bad acting. Like you can have like somewhat serviceable writing and good and bad acting, but good writing and bad acting, nah. Usually a good script will help the actors.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, well, I want to ask you about you now.
Okay,
And
all right.
yeah, um, there weren't that many questions, but I just wanted to have this discussion for a while. So,
Oh no, you're totally fine. Ask me whatever questions you want. I'm happy
okay.
to like chat as long as you want.
All right, cool. Um, let's see. Well, when did you first take an interest in writing?
Oh, that's a good question. So I was actually 14 when I 12 or 14 when I got interested. Basically, like I submitted this little like short story to a library um, short story contest, and I got like second place, which kind of like, oh, cool. I
Oh, nice.
So like I could say, okay, I'm kind of that little kid mentality of reward equals you did good stuff. So, and like I did a little bit of writing and kind of for ever since I saw Lord of the Rings, I would do this thing called the pretend with my father because my father is very good at voices. So I would be my own self-insert character in stuff like Aragon, Lord of the Rings, some extent Harry Potter, a little bit of Wheel of Time, and I would be my own self-insert character. And basically, it was like verbal live fan fiction with my father, like either while we're cleaning, in the kitchen, just chatting about stuff. And he eventually like said like I started getting some of my own ideas for stories, and he was like, you know what, you should write your own stories. And I was like, you know what, sure. So I created this kind of idea of these like immortal people that, or at least like are born every once in a while. There's almost like tier systems of how like powerful the immortals are. Like where there's the kings that are only able to be killed by other kings unless it's poison,
Uh-huh.
and the lesser immortals that are can be killed by each other. And then there's a group of people who are basically just undead versions and are kind of like these eldritch things. I hadn't read anything by H.P. Lovecraft. I didn't even know that Lovecraft existed for another 5 years. But I did find, I wrote the book, and I got like decently positive feedback, though I imagine a lot of that was, oh, he's 14 and he wrote a book, so we should probably encourage him, even though, and thankfully, like one of my friends, who was my bishop at the time, he's a very analytical person, and him and his family like are still good friends with me to this day since they're wonderful people. So he gave me some pretty blunt feedback like on the first bit, and I was like, wow, yeah. And so I kept writing and kept writing. I kept writing, tried to take his thought, his uh,
Criticisms?
feedback, criticisms into, yeah, criticisms exactly. And I created some like in relatively interesting stuff, but they all kind of reek of teenager, especially now. Um,
We've all
where
been there.
yeah, like basically this assassin kid on an alternate plane of existence where everybody who's ever disappeared into the Bermuda Triangle or disappeared in a shipwreck has just disappeared too,
Oh,
where
cool.
it's just this series of islands. And there used to be like these demons that used to be there, but then they got driven out. And but the when they started interbreeding with the new humans, they managed to produce something more akin to demigods than the chimeras that have been produced earlier. Or basically, what I like to affectionately call my Saturday morning cartoon book, where it's basically um, these teenagers get to turn into dragons, but they also have mech armor. And I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
cool.
and I was just, yeah, and I just kind of did not realize that like um, I was writing a farce at the time. I kind of realized some elements of it were farcical, but the dialogue is way too, a little bit too po-faced and serious for what's going on, and they talk more like adults. So I need to, if I ever want to uh, make this, I need to restructure it. And yes, exactly, Dragon Blaster. I need to fix the book because it does have merit. It just will take a lot of polishing as opposed to some of like my recent stuff, which only like needs like, because I've gotten to the point over the past 10 years that I can kind of write, and it's mostly just like polishing for stuff. It's not Dr. Crow. It's a dumb idea I just kind of like in my teenager brain took it very seriously. When now I kind of realize, no, this is a parody. I just need to go full Rotter and make this hilarious
I mean,
because it.
like, they sound like cool ideas, and to be honest, I think you can make that dragon mech one into an anime, and I guarantee it will be very, very successful.
I
Actually,
I imagine I imagine I could. I just have to find the right place to pitch it.
yeah.
But the bad guys are basically dudes in mecha knight armor, and that's kind of just kind of like I thought. Kind of symbolically, I was doing a Saint George and the Dragon type thing. Only it's in modern day with mech stuff, and I just thought, okay, this would be cool, but I need to kind of work out the plot, figure out the climax. Originally, I kind of had this plan for like a trilogy because I was kind of doing a formula at the time, or at least like in terms of planning, it would be like first two are a like a kind of a duology story, and then uh the third one is kind of talking about their descendants doing another problem. But yeah, that was kind of the formula that I was going with, but now I've kind of transitioned beyond that. Um, no, I didn't write phalanx. That's you, Dr. Crow.
Yeah, make this better. Exactly.
Dragon robot. Technically, they're not dragon robots. They basically have like gauntlets and that have this digitizable armor that attach various types of different turbine guns or blaster guns to their backs and breastplates. So yeah, imagine kind of basically imagine dragons with battleizer armor.
I
That's
want to
what
see this
this.
show. I want to see it.
Yeah,
That sounds great.
I will eventually, like, once I run with laser on their head, on their backs, technically, like.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm failing to see the problem here.
Yeah, me too.
I just need to. It's mostly the prose that is the problem that I need to fix because
Oh, okay.
that's the main thing. The concept in itself is fine. I just need to figure out what is the ending because I am not doing a sequel to this because this works better as a standalone. If I try to write a sequel, it will feel way too stressed out.
All right.
I did.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Inclusive.
No, I have blue, green, and orange. We fail to see how this would fail. I don't think it would fail, it just needs lasers. Alrighty, there's some positive. I guess I'm going to have to go back and do this.
Yeah. You should get your dad to like voice act too. I mean, if he's good, I mean, yeah, why not?
Oh.
Oh. That's true.
This is. You're not wrong. How'd you predict that?
Hack.
Mentions lasers chat. I'll take your entire stuff. Okay. I hope that a long-winded, rambling answers.
Yeah, oh God. Crow. Yeah, why not?
Okay. The girls are blue, green, and orange, then the dudes are red, black, and yellow.
All right, fair. That's fair
Yeah.
enough.
And I kind of have a habit of basically like attaching like black as a color to my main character. That's usually how I do things.
It's pretty cool.
We know Dr. Crow.
Don't be.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's kind of.
Okay. Ask Literature Devil. Why no
Yeah.
purple?
I don't know. I guess. Um, uh, so I saw this earlier in the chat, but maybe edgy for edgy's sake, could you clarify that Neph champion? But while we wait, what other questions did you have, Lucky Jinx?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I hope to answer your question
Oh yeah, it
of how I
totally
got
did.
started.
In the best
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I guess like I think an addendum might be like I finished Lost Legion a while when I was 16, and that was the first book I ever published, mostly because I like put a lot of work into it and just wanted to finish it. And then I finished the sequel, and then I got partway through the third one before I left my mission, and then while I was on my mission, I finished it. And so I published it right before I left, with very minimal editing. And thankfully, it got pretty favorable reviews, all things considered, like an aggregate of like 4 out of 5, which I'm just like, cool. I'm cool with this. And so I put up the next one, and I didn't get much reception. And I was like, oh. Part of that was the Amazon system
yeah.
changing, while the while I published Lost Legion, it was basically you get the royalty like when the purchase happens. However, Amazon shifted it to you get the percentage of how much the person reads. So I think that
What?
might have shifted things. Yes. You only get the full percentage if the person finishes it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh. I don't think I was, honestly. Um I was mostly kind of just like I mostly just kind of wanted to like if I look through like my stuff, I mostly just kind of wrote what I thought was cool. Like if I'm looking at it, I don't think that like I think that when I made like an edgy character, I suppose, in the form of Richard Fenris, who's kind of just like a depressed kid, or at least depressed young adult. Who was about like 21, 22-ish, who like his leg is broken and never healed properly. So he's kind of got a feeling of like depression. He doesn't really like how his life has turned out. I think Dragon Blaster is like there's no possible way to make that like, and I didn't really like go for gore or anything else like that. I think part of it was the main thing that I absorbed was either Saturday morning cartoons, Disney Channel shows like Aaron Stone, Legend of the Seeker, Wheel of Time, Brandon Sanderson, all of which are kind of like fairly wholesome, all things considered. Though Mistborn does have a lot of violence in it, but that was kind of the media that I consumed. I think that most of it was kind of like I just kind of believed that in more stoicism, and kind of just believed that like you need to very strictly suppress emotion as opposed to control emotion and harness it and channel it. That was kind of the most edgy that I got personally, if that answers your question. But back to you, Jinx.
Actually, that makes sense. To be honest, that's very that's actually talented right there because I remember when I wrote edgy characters, they were just edgy just because they had like no real reason to be depressed or moody or anything like that. They just were. So you should actually pat yourself on the back for that, for having a reason for them to be that way. Because uh, I know when I had surgery, like I couldn't really walk around freely or do anything that much, and that it did like bring me down quite a bit. So, so I mean, having your legs just not work as well, so you don't have that much physical freedom. I understand and sympathize that that would like really depress me too, because I don't really like being confined to even limping or something like that. I mean, that'd be pretty bad. So I wanted to, let's see, ask also, like, do you ever write yourself into a corner or write an entire manuscript and then realize that you're not entirely happy with it? And if so, how do you rectify the problem?
Um, I think that one thing is like I'll kind of be constantly thinking about my story and be thinking, okay, like how do I get this to happen? And um, how do I? And I'll just be thinking about it. And sometimes I'll be like, nope, I am not going to do that. I'm going to shift gears and try something else because that's what the flow of the story is.
Yeah.
Um, if I have like a problem, I think that one example is actually in Lost Legion. This was actually something that was pointed out to me by I think my mom actually, where she said like the memory of this guy does not make sense. A kid could not kill a bunch of uh, a bunch of bandits. This makes no sense. So I knew I wanted to have that moment. However, what happened with that one was I actually was like, wait, I can lampshade this to make it clear that it doesn't make sense in the story and have the characters actually acknowledge that it doesn't make sense, and then kind of have that be a story element where the main character feels like his all of his memories are not fully real to him anymore, and he's got large like blank spaces of time. Sometimes he'll have a memory come up, but what he'll do, like because he's scared he'll forget it, is he'll write it all down as soon as he remembers something in a little journal.
Oh, that's really clever. Holy crap. You gotta I would ask you to be my mentor now because my gosh, like, that's you have like really great ideas because I also that like new method of using real celebrities like as models for your characters are that's pretty clever and interesting. Do you come up with like these ideas yourself, or do you have like maybe your own mentor or maybe somebody else help you with those ideas to help formulate your writing process?
I've kind of always had uh, I've kind of always just kind of had like this watch a book like it's a movie in my head, or listen to a book like it's a movie in my head, and I just basically transferred that to my writing process. And I had this like I would always kind of think like kind of picture like actors that I knew about as the characters in the book. So that's what I shifted to. Like I kind of did have some mentors in like kind of just like I'd give my dad and my show my mom and my dad kind of little bits of feedback, little bits of my book, and they give me some feedback. But I think I really only got like super like an audio mentor in the form of Brandon Sanderson, where I like actually got to watch through his class on YouTube,
Mhm.
uh, where he actually like breaks down the creative process, and a lot of it well, I was kind of doing, but it kind of allowed me to kind of like focus in and kind of figure out some more stuff about what I wanted to do. I was also kind of just sampling a bunch of movie reviews and kind of figuring out, okay, so this doesn't make sense. Like, I need to be thinking more critically about the things I watch. And it bugged
Yeah.
my parents to no end because they felt like I was kind of just inundating myself with kind of opinions that were not my own and just shifting my stuff on and parroting other people's opinions. But it's just like, my feeling is, if you're accurate, I don't feel it's parroting. I feel like it's just reiterating a point that just exists.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it's fact, then it's fact. I mean, there's no parroting really when it's
Mhm.
a real
Yeah.
fact. Because yeah, like movie reviewers like Mahler and the Critical
Mhm.
Drinker and
Mhm.
YMS and everybody. Because I should just enjoy movies like just for the story. I never really looked at other different elements that made the story so good, and
Mhm.
they helped me see it. So I don't see how that would be parroting either, to be honest.
Well, I think one of the problems was the main person at least, main couple of people that I was. I actually did not have Mahler. Mahler just was like before was like I found Mahler like only like 2 years ago. The
Yeah.
people that I was actually going to like, I'm sad to say, was School of Movies when they were good. Um, and the and Nostalgia Critic, both of which have soured over my opinions on both have soured over the past 3 years. Um, whereas, as well as kind of to a certain extent, Just Right, with
Yeah.
and so, but like as I've kind of like gotten into, okay, let's make things more consistent. Let's figure out, okay, let's have logical reasons for each of the things and carefully craft the story in um, terms of, okay, this has to have a coherent plot, and if you have something, carefully foreshadow it, and if and do not use plot try to plug plot holes, limit conveniences, and do not use Deus Ex Machina under any circumstances.
Yeah.
Because it's just like everybody like says, no, Deus Ex Machina is stupid, Deus Ex Machina is lazy, and they are right. Deus Ex Machina is lazy. It's like,
It is.
it's basically like it's a sign that, okay, the writer has lost all confidence in their story and their Orion has basically run out of creativity. There's no other way to fix this.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between like having something that's carefully set up throughout the whole thing, where it's just like, okay, what is this? What is this? And then you finally get the person using it, as opposed to the person gets thing dropped in their out in their lap that solves the problem. That's when it turns from carefully set up a plot element to Deus Ex Machina. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I read an article on that too about they called it coincidences, and they said that it completely ruins the story because you're
Hmm.
already, you know, you like in the back of your mind, it's fiction, but now they're reminding you that it's fiction, and yeah, it ruins everything.
Yeah, it's kind of the effect of like, wow, this is like I'm kind of like trying to like suspend my disbelief and think, okay, what could be the idea of what is this trying to do? How is this possible? And if it like it's explained in the story, like people would be like, oh, okay, this is kind of exotic or like extreme, but cool. It's perfectly fine. However, when it's like, wow, the writer kind of just can't think of a clever way to do this other than bam, thing happened, bam, thing happened, bam, thing happened. Like the dagger being the exact shape of the Death Star wreckage.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Where it's just like, wow, Chris Terrio, you're showing your hack credentials. Bravo. Thank you. You're showing us that Argo was basically a lucky fluke and probably was more to do with Ben Affleck than you. Great, since you made BBS and Justice League. Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, just like where it's just the string of conveniences to make that scene happen is so ludicrous that it's just like, nope. Your brain just goes, nope.
yeah. Oh man. Well, yeah. Well.
Yeah. Continue with your questions. I'm loving this conversation. You bring up a lot of interesting points.
Well, I just had like one last one, and it is, would you like to see film adaptations of your books in the future?
Ooh. Depends on who makes them. Um, I would very much like to see some of my works adapted. I think that it would be really cool, but I would kind of ask to be consulted on major changes.
Yeah.
I would if you change something, I would be like, okay, uh, why are you doing this?
Go
Oh,
ahead, Will.
yeah. Just
Yeah.
everybody
Exactly.
likes this idea. Everybody likes this idea, but I'm mostly just kind of like ashamed of it because
You brought out the weebs in us with that idea.
clearly I have a whole bunch of weebs, even though like I barely watched anything beyond Hayao Miyazaki and freaking Inuyasha and Yu-Gi-Oh.
Uh, that'd be great. What? I said hi, Crow. I was just like, I'm sorry. I'm ashamed because like I haven't responded to your emails in a while.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, oh hi, Crow. We are weebs. Oh, whoa. Okay. All right then. I
Okay. Um, like if I could like carefully vet the person that would be adapting my stuff, I would um uh I would totally do it. But,
Oh, okay.
like if I could.
Yeah. That's true. That is very true.
Unless they're Adonises like Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Or yeah. I would in the future I would have to very carefully vet them and figure out, okay, what's the director's like, admittedly like based on like my understanding of the film industry, there's no way that I would get that much power to kind of, it's ultimately the unfortunately it's the studio's decision, and the studio often will be like, yeah, we don't care. We don't care.
Yeah.
Here. That's funny. Um, but yeah, I would have to like if I were to let it, I would have to be like, alrighty, I have no creative control over this. I'm just gonna have to let this go. Oh,
Well,
and I would be very
if
very
I,
scared that would be bad. I would be very
yeah.
scared.
I mean, well, if, and this is a big if because I don't know what's gonna happen, but if I ever do get into the film industry, can I make an adaptation of your books, a film adaptation of one of your books or something.
Sure.
Awesome.
I
And you
would.
will have full creative control over it. You will have it.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah.
would just like if you do uh if you do like decide to make like a film adaptation, I would love to kind of just have a chat with you like about like what were kind of the favorite elements of it and what you think like could be fixed, maybe like would be part of the creative process that might like need to be cut out, and maybe like figuring out ways of like streamlining stuff. And I would be down to just have that chat with you. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Because same time, like I don't really wanna use that much CGI too. So I want to make this look good, and I don't want that much CGI. I guess a little bit is okay, but mostly want like like I guess I'm kind of like I like the retro style, where they use like animatronics and not costumes, but like real things, that you can see and that you don't have to like pretend to see or anything like that while you're on the set or
Um,
anything.
I think at least with a few of the books that I have, you like Prince of Winter, you could very, very easily do with just up to the third, last half of the book. You don't really need CGI. You could kind of just like have it in a boardroom meeting,
Oh,
um, like kind of like just have it in like little sets. But there are some things that you would need.
okay, yeah.
Like, I imagine that you can't do dragons in practical very well.
Mm, I guess well, I mean maybe we could like cheese it a little bit and like make it in like a little like a little dragon, how they make like little cities and stuff like that and they make it look like it's giant or
Hmm,
something and
a
like
miniature?
yeah,
I
and like
think
just
so.
use camera tricks, to make it look like it's huge or something.
Yeah, I think that would work. And
Yeah.
basically, kind of like do what they did with Gollum or the cave troll, where those still hold up today, but it was mainly because they scanned a practical like creature into the computer, or with the Game of Thrones dragons, where the Game of Thrones dragons look like they're actually there.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that like at least with young Dragonlord, you cannot do the Dragon Vagar in like full practical. You could do like it because you would have to make her because she's the through the whole book practically. So you would have to be like, oh, okay, there's this giant dragon. There's this large black dragon. I have to kind of keep it here. I can't really like get rid of it. She's kind of an integral part of the plot.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So
We just got to get the right people,
yeah.
that know what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd honestly love like I have like my own little cast list like on Pinterest where like I just have the cast. I even have the voices that I can kind of like use to kind of like keep the voices straight. Like if you've ever seen Lucifer, the TV show, or just Leslie Ann Brandt and anything, that's what I imagine as the voice of Vagar because that's kind of just who I modeled her off of, just in terms of like her attitude and demeanor.
Oh, her personality and stuff.
Yep.
Oh, okay. And yeah, that's I didn't have many questions, but yeah, that was it.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, cool. Do you have anything that you would like to pimp before we head out? Like any of your work, any thing that you would like to do in terms of your work, or that you want people to see?
Nah, I'm a slacker. I don't have anything.
Yeah, I feel you.
Uh,
All right.
I am working on a script. It's a script. It's the X Files, basically,
Oh,
for
okay.
a film. Yeah. Are you a fan of that or no? That
I
show?
I have heard of it. I'm mostly kind of like into like police procedurals.
Oh, okay.
Like I like Warehouse 13. Uh, I like Lucifer to a certain extent. I like the uh, let me think. I think what are some other ones? I like White Collar. That's an example of a pretty fairly short, early like police procedural show. But like, yeah, I need to watch the X Files. I keep hearing all these stuff about it, and I need to watch it. But I know like the rough concept. I think where
Yeah,
it's kind of like almost like Monster of the Week, and they're trying to figure out like either sci-fi or supernatural like things. Is that correct?
pretty much. Yeah, and it is pretty good series. It's just like I have a few criticisms about it
Mm,
sometimes on the writers, but I don't
yeah,
want to
that's
say too much just in case they find a stream.
yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Um, but if and that's all you have, correct? That's it.
Uh, okay. Well, for one more question, like,
Okay.
do you do you are you like constantly writing, or do you like ever take like really long breaks for something to like think about it
Uh,
more in depth, or stuff like that?
um, I am pretty much constantly writing, though I, of late, I've been suffering with the problem of school.
Yeah.
School and streaming eating up a lot of my time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes
Uh,
sense.
but I will like I will basically like sometimes I'll be but basically like what I will do usually is I'll have like 4 or 5 projects at the same time that I'll kind of
Whoa.
rotate through. That way, because like just barely I was able to go on a publishing spree because I was able to finish several books over the course of like 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
And that was because I just rotated through projects, and I was able to put out Prince of Winter, Tempest of Shadows, Queen of Spring, Blood of the Dragon, and I finished a novella named First Dragon Strife and finished War of the Dragons.
Man, I wish I had your what's it called?
Prolific nature.
Yes.
And currently I have actually let me look at my word count accountability thing. Gosh, since right now I'm working on um, Dreams of Dragonlords, Wrath of the Dragon, War of the Shadow, and Reign of Shadow, and Sunkiller, and Hammer of the Sea. Those are the 3 books that I'm working on right now.
Nice. Oh, I'll be sure to. I need to get your books. It's just like money's kind of tight right now, but I will. I will. Don't worry.
I know for sure. Like I'm only like partially like uh
Yeah,
I need to
absolutely. Me too.
yeah, like currently like Sunkiller's at like 13K words, War of the Shadows is at 41.2K words, Dreams of Dragonless is 43K word, almost 44K words, Wrath of the Dragon is 77K words, same with Queen of the Ashes, Reign of Shadows is about 10K words, and First Dragon Strife was 17K by the end.
Damn. Also, Hex. How you doing, Hex? By the way, and yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
How much
Um,
then?
yeah, and all of that is kind of just like I just rotate through, and I think Hammer of the Sea. I actually don't know how much. It's like 6 pages, but I think that's like probably like 6K or something like that. Let me see. Okay, the word count. Ooh, the word count on Hammer of the Sea is 3,000. So
Dude, I need to step my game up.
I go on long binge writing sessions where I'll just kind of write and write and write. But what I'll do is I'll pace along my driveway, just listening to music, kind of figuring out, okay, like doing this, doing this, doing this, and just kind of like figuring out, okay, kind of want to, okay, this is an interesting idea. Would this work? And then kind of like figuring out, okay, this doesn't work. I think in one case, I kind of am right now. I'm figuring out like how to like do some edits on my uh, War of the Dragon, not War of the Dragon, War of Shadow, because right now there's kind of kind of a like character who I want to die, but the problem is I've written a scene where they're alive later, so all I need to do is kind of figure out, okay, I need to have a replacement character in here. So who that will be you'll figure out when I release the book next year.
Oh.
It won't have any meaning since most of the people here have not read it yet, I imagine. Have not read Tempest of Shadow yet. But any other questions that you have? And we can do this again at another point in time if you would like. Is there what other any questions that you would like to answer just before like we close things out? Since this.
Well, let me just address one point that Nilius, I think that's how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry if I butchered it. Made. I don't hate CGI. I just think sometimes it's used too much nowadays in movies, and I'd like to bring back, puppets and real makeup and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Dark Crystal or Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, like I don't think it's like, I don't think it's horrible.
The devil.
Yeah.
It's not the devil. It's just
exactly.
that it's kind of just gotten to the point where it's homogenized a lot of things and kind of like just makes things look the same. And it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat when you get to see like creativity work on screen. Like you have like with the most recent Dark Crystal TV show where the puppets don't necessarily have a range of expression. So what they did was they touched it up with CGI to kind of like give them some more expressiveness.
Yeah, that's what I want to go for, really. So.
Yeah, I'd highly recommend taking a look at the behind the scenes of that show. I think that you would have a lot of fun and get a lot of good, interesting insight out of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so much for hosting me, then. Thank you for answering my questions too.
Of course, if you have any more, please just shoot me an email, and I'll be happy to set another one up.
All right, cool. Okay.
Yeah. And for everybody in the chat, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. And there's one last thing to say.
Go! Holy shit. Okay, we're going. Go!